Okay, so we're here with Tim Yakteen, and Tim, I think you're going to say maybe a few words first, and then we'll get to questions.
Let me just clear out my screen here. I've got something on here. Got it. Okay. So basically just wanted to start off and look forward to doing the interview with you. Want to talk about myself and the horses that I've got on the Derby trail.
Okay. Well, you want to just, I'm waiting to see if we have any questions, but I'll just start in. Give us an update on Taiba. That's the correct pronunciation, right? Taiba?
Correct. So Taiba's on schedule. He's going to breeze tomorrow. And we'll, get a good drill in him. We'll go 3/4 with him and look for a nice strong drill. He's got good energy, and we're on schedule. He looks great.
What about Messier?
Messier's come out of his drill in great order. Gone back to the track. I've stood both horses today in the gates, and so far everything's been straightforward.
We have a question from Paul Miles.
Hey, Tim, educate me a little bit here. What happens when a horse changes trainers at this time in his career? Does the horse miss a beat, or what, if anything, changes for the horse when that happens?
I really, with horses that are straightforward, I really don't see them missing a beat. It would be just like, any horse shifting from one team to another. They can, just resume the regiment that they're going into, and obviously, you watch them and make sure that they're comfortable with the regiment that you provided for them, if it differs from the previous regiment they've been in. But with reference to the two horses, Messier and Taiba, they've been exceptionally straightforward, very easy to train. They're smart horses. They're good doers. They really don't have any quirks about them, so it makes my job pretty easy.
Pat, did you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Pat Forty from Sports Illustrated. How you would characterize these horses, two horses and 3-year-olds, in terms of the talent of the horses you've trained in your career? And you said that, depending on changes in the regimen, that progress after changing barns, have there been any in their regimen from what they previously experienced?
Not that I can see. They've, as I mentioned, they've been very straightforward. They've fell into my routine very comfortably, and so I don't see anything that would concern me. As I mentioned, they're very straightforward horses. You had two questions. What was your first question?
Yes, sir. Sorry, that's prime faux pas by me to ask two questions at once. First one is just, I guess, how you would rank or characterize these 2 3-year-olds' talents compared to other horses you have had.
Since I've gone out on my own, these 3-year-olds, they would be the best 3-year-olds that I've ever had in my care under myself as a trainer. I've been fortunate enough to have been around many top 3-year-olds throughout my career.
John Churwa has a question.
Hi, Tim. John Sherva from the LA Times. Earlier in the week, Wayne Lucas made a comment that these are still going to be referred to as like Bob's horses. How do you feel about that? And when do they become your horses if they're not already?
Yeah, John, I don't know how to answer that question. All as I know is that horses are in my barn. I'm moving forward with them, and I look forward to going to Kentucky with them.
When are the horses, and when do you get to Kentucky?
We arrive Sunday morning, the whole team.
Okay, thank you.
Jason Frakes. Jason, you had a question? I guess he didn't. His hand was raised. Well, let's talk about what Jay Pridman humorously called the curse of Leonidas, that only one horse has ever won the Derby off 2 races. And that was back in whenever, in the 1800s and stuff like that. That, you know, you've been around a lot of top horses, a lot of top horsemen and stuff. What about the challenge of, I know these horses are getting more and more lightly raced, but 2 races, only one in a stakes. That's well, almost unprecedented.
It is, except for 1883, right? When they pulled
See,
it
good,
off,
you know the
but-
year.
But obviously with the challenge lies, I feel, more when it comes to the gates opening, the horses not having the experience of being surrounded by other horses. So I think running style plays into it, foundation plays into it. As we've seen, you know, there used to be this extended curse that you had to start as a 2-year-old, and now we're seeing that less and less. So the bottom line is you know, great horses materialize at different times throughout their career, and if you have the opportunity, as Amber did, to take a shot, and the horse is able to show the talent that he did, you have to take advantage of it and give that horse the opportunity to show the talent that he may have, and to be lucky enough to pull down the first crown.
Victor and Paul are waiting with questions, but I want to interject here. Didn't you, and also Gary Young, that I guess is, you know, an advisory role, counsel against running in the Santa Anita Derby? And the owner
That we
thought
did.
this-
That we did. And I think Amber is a very educated individual and was able to understand what we were articulating, our concerns, the possible consequences of doing what he did. He obviously, I think, made a very good choice. I'm reaping the benefits of it, as well as he is, by overruling, not necessarily overruling, but by making the decision that to move forward and run the horse, because we do know that, and we've seen it, we've seen horses break their maiden, exceptionally impressive, come back, maybe being taken out of their league too soon, and have their careers ahead of them become more challenging and not be able to develop into the horse that they potentially were able to, or would have been able to.
Victor Ryan has a question.
Yeah, hey, Tim. Just wanted to ask you, it caused some, a little bit of ripples last week when Taiba did not get a workout in. I just want to see if you can maybe elaborate a little bit on why you decided to go that route. And is there any concern that, you only have the one drill going into a 1.25 mile race?
No concern. I had to recognize that the horse, even though he bounced out of his race in great shape, and looked super, continues to look super, but I couldn't overlook the fact of what he had accomplished. And more so than anything, I wanted to make sure that I was bringing a horse to Kentucky, to Churchill, with a full tank. It would do me no good to take a horse that I misread to Churchill and have him underperform because I overtrained him.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Question from Cameron Drummond.
Hey there, Tim. Thanks for the time. I wanted to ask about just the partnership in terms of jockey and horse with Taiba and Mike Smith, especially given how little experience the horse has had. How much do you think Mike will be a benefit given the wealth of experience he has, in particular with the Kentucky Derby?
I think you pretty much articulated it. He's got a tremendous amount of experience. Mike knows the spots where you need to be during the race. He's a great gate rider. Obviously, that's imperative in the Derby, positioning yourself leaving there, that first turn can become exceptionally challenging to navigate. And with Taiba's lack of experience and Mike's overwhelming amount of experience and success in the race, I think it will find a happy balance.
We have a question from Paul Miles, and then we'll go to Jason Frakes.
Yeah, Tim, why do you think you were chosen for this task to train these horses? And is the Derby been high on your list of goals to accomplish?
Good question there. The Derby has definitely always been on, I think, every trainer's goal. To actually be given the opportunity late in the stage, it's just an honor. I know Tom Ryan. I see him quite a bit, and when he asked me, when he called me and discussed the scenario with me, I was flattered and excited. And was it because I saw Tom on a daily basis when he had come to Santa Anita in the mornings? I think that's a question you'd have to ask him.
Jason, just before we get to you, Tim, when we were talking the other day, you mentioned you viewed it as a new client situation when you got the call.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So definitely the horses that were moved to my stable are like new clients. As Jenny mentioned, you take a phone call, you have a discussion, and if you feel comfortable with your client, the client's feeling comfortable with you. But as I mentioned, I've known Tom in the mornings and chatted with him. He's been in the industry a long time. And so anyway, I think that's sort of how it all materialized.
Jason.
Tim, I fell off there for a couple of minutes, so if you addressed this already, I apologize. My understanding is you never came to the Derby with Bob, but you did come a couple of times with Charlie Whittingham. I was wondering what your memories of those two trips were, any standout moments, or what you recall from those previous experiences here.
Probably one of my most emotional moments with Charlie was when you go to collect for the walkover, and I'm sure you've probably been there or you've heard about it. And when the horsemen start lining the gap where the horses are starting to collect in the chute, they just the crowd of the horsemen on the backside, the respect that they had for Charlie, they were so loud and so emotional about it that it actually got several of the horses on their toes, and it was just like a salute to the Pope.
Was that when you were there with Strode's Creek, or when you were
With
there with
Strode's
Corker?
Creek.
Yeah. What was the reaction with Corker, who's a little bit more of a price?
It was the reaction. It was still, the fans just absolutely loved Charlie, and it was always a pleasure to be on his side.
Question from John.
Yeah, Tim, how much was Messier's performance in the Santa Anita Derby, which was very good, compromised by the fact he'd been off for so long? Do you think that we've not seen his best?
I think the race sets us up very well. He did have an extended period between races, and he did all the heavy lifting. So I feel we should see a big move forward from Messier. He's bounced out of his race exceptionally well. He's doesn't give me the impression that he was fatigued. I think he enjoyed it, in regards to enjoyed the fitness and is thriving on it. He's a great doer, and very excited about the way he's doing in the mornings, and look forward to him moving forward in the afternoon.
Back to Cameron.
And Tim, you kind of just touched on it there about your past experiences at the Derby, but leading into this coming weekend and all the personal responsibilities that come with being the trainer of record for two strong horses, how are you planning to, I guess, get yourself ready for everything that you're going to have to do as an individual and being able to do that and manage it all correctly this week?
Yeah, I have a great staff. I have a great team. I have long standing relationships with my employees. That job makes it a lot easier in regards. It's overall, you know, besides the name carrying the Derby, when you ship, it's very similar to in regards to shipping into any other race. I will be have the luxury of shipping into Rudy Brissett's barn, who's been an exceptional host when I went to Oaklawn, and that will make my travels and shipping much easier because I'll be going into a setup barn.
Questions? Victor.
Yeah, Tim, just want to go down. Who else are you sending out there? I think we have New Grange and Doppelganger for the Pat Day Mile and Adair Manor. I think for the 8 Bells, not for the Oaks. Is that correct?
No, not planning on sending Adair Manor. I've got New Grange and Doppelganger that will be going into the Pat Day Mile. We'll have their final prep on Friday. Both horses are doing very well. Obviously, if you're going to ship, you know, across the country, they have to be doing well. So, you know, fortunately, touch wood, right now we're on point with everybody that we're planning to go with.
So that's about it then. The Pat Day Mile horses.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Chelsea.
Hi, Tim. I understand you're only planning to work Taiba once between the Santa Anita Derby and the Kentucky Derby. Is that correct?
Correct. He's working tomorrow.
What's the thinking behind that? It would be obviously a bit different than Baffert's normal routine with a horse between the Santa Anita Derby and the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I don't know if you were on, but you possibly weren't on the call earlier. But as I mentioned, my main concern, I had to respect that Taiba went from 3/4 to 1 1/8. He stepped up in class, and I just didn't want to misread the horse and take a flat horse to Churchill. It's easy to misread them when they're doing really well, but I just had to recognize the effort. It was a huge effort, and it was an impressive performance. And that laid in the back of my mind, and that's what led me to make that choice.
Are you familiar with the reason that he was placed on the vets list after his maiden win?
No.
And no issues since he's been with you then?
No.
Great, thank you.
Jason.
Tim, you kind of hinted on this, but I wonder if you might just speak to your personal emotions and feelings about sort of being thrust into this spotlight at such a late stage of the prep races and all of this, and just kind of how you're personally feeling about it.
So far, I'm feeling really good about it. It's easy to feel good right now because things are going well. As a trainer, that's not always the case. You run into speed bumps, you know, along the way on campaigns occasionally. That will create a challenge if that does take place, and probably would send my stress level in a different direction. But currently, I've been able to just sort of take it in stride and enjoy it. And that's what I'm hoping to do, is to enjoy this trip.
you've been around a long time. Again, you worked for a couple Hall of Fame trainers. For the vast majority of trainers, it's hard to come up with these grade 1 horses. It's hard to get the top flight horses and it seems like they're so centralized. So just put in perspective though, that's about 6 weeks out from the Derby, these 2 horses drop in your barn when you've been working towards this, but it's hard to get that to happen.
Very difficult. And I've sort of used the analogy. It's, I sort of had a lottery ticket dropped in my lap, and I'm trying to go to the window and cash in.
Do we have other questions? I've got a Messier question. He was considered by many at the time maybe the horse to beat for the Kentucky Derby, and it seems like I won't say he's under the radar, but he's certainly not getting the hype that he got before the Santa Anita Derby. Is he a horse that you think people better not forget about?
He's doing very well, and I would definitely not underestimate or forget either one of my horses. They're as I hate repeating myself, but right now we're on point, we're focused, and you wouldn't want your horses to be doing anything different than what they're doing here.
Were you with Charlie when he had Ferdinand?
No, that was just a couple years before I came to the country.
Oh, well, I lose track of time. I was around then, but anyways, it just seems like he wasn't that, I won't say he wasn't interested in the Derby, but he wasn't going to come until he had the right horse. And then it seemed like he really got the religion once he won the Derby. So I just wondered what it was like when you were working for him, as far as you said, you grew up, you always wanted to win the Derby, but did you take anything away from your time with Charlie about the Derby and about what kind of horse it would take, and also about how hard it can be to say no to this race?
Yes, and I think as time has gone on, it's been more difficult to say no to the race. If you look in the past, I think trainers were more willing to say no. They probably took the approach a little more, we want to make sure we can win it, instead of going there to see if we possibly could take it down. So they want. I feel that that was sort of the turning point. I'd have to look back. You would know better than I, but 92, 93. I think our Derby fields started growing again.
Yeah. And it seems like the point system has really given people, like, if you qualify, then you don't have to apologize for showing up if you got the points to get in. And it's, I think it has changed the dynamics. Are you paying a lot of attention to the other horses across the country, the other preps, and sort of extrapolating this horse's style with your horses and how it might all come together on May 7th?
I have, and you continuously look at it and reevaluate your competition. And so, yes, I have been aware of the other horses.
Is it the kind of thing like after the Santa Anita Derby, you're like, bring them on, or after a big work, bring them on, and then you watch, maybe a race, somebody else's race, you think, oh man, this is gonna be tough, or does it?
How about somebody else's work, somebody else's race? Yes, absolutely.
More questions? Any questions? Everybody good? Wait, no, we got some more questions. Okay, Cameron.
Yeah, I just had one more for me. We kind of I guess, broached the subject of it being hard to make the Derby and all the factors that have to come together for it to be realized. Was there any point where you, I guess, had kind of, made peace with maybe you weren't going to get the chance to bring one of your own horses to the Derby and go through this experience? Or is that something that never really enters the mind of a trainer just because of the way the sport is?
No, because every owner that you have, that's their dream. And I think that's what keeps people continuously investing in young horses, hoping to get there. more so nowadays than in the past. I think our owners are more willing to dream in color than probably years ago when I first got into the industry.
Jason.
Tim, you were quoted as saying you had Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan in your barn. I wonder if you could tell us which is which.
Well, I'm gonna say that Mike Smith is Kobe.
Oh, I thought you meant your horses. My fault.
Oh no, I was making reference to my two riders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they're my clutch players.
Gotcha.
Maybe just give us a little background about yourself, Tim. For one thing, because we also know Jimmy Barnes so well. Where were you? I mean, where were you when you were working for Baffert? Were you at another division then, like Hollywood Park, or?
Well, just to give you a brief synopsis, started in the mid 80s with my relationship with Bob, and we came over to the Thoroughbreds together. I want to say in around 91, that relationship with Bob gave me the opportunity to work for one of the greatest of all time, Charlie Whittingham, which was very much supported by Bob at the time. And then I would say roughly around 97, 98, 97, I was asked to come back to work for Bob, and it was a great opportunity. Michael Whittingham at the time, his barn had downsized, and it was just a great opportunity for Michael to join up with his father and spend some of his twilight years with his father, which I very much enjoyed seeing. It gave Charlie and Michael time to bond.
They're very different trainers, Charlie and Bob. Can you just sort of talk about what you drew from each and how you maybe if you molded it to being the trainer you are, or maybe not, and other influences that might have been on you as a trainer?
Yeah, I think there's probably more similarities in people than people see. I would say that they're both very confident in their horses, and they're both very patient. And I think you've seen probably that one trainer received a few more young horses and that were bought at auction, whereas the other trainer trained more for breeders, did buy horses at auction, but did have a clientele that was largely based on their own breeding.
And certainly had a bunch of good older horses. It seemed like that was the thing you think of with
Both-
Charlie is his, yeah.
Both
Both
trainers-
guys did, but
Yeah.
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 And then you also grew up in Germany. So like your dad was in the service? Is that what? Or how did you?
My dad was in the service. He was working for NATO.
And I mean, they do things very different. Were you always interested in racing when you were growing up in?
No, I was a kid. I grew up, my later years, I was sort of out in the country, and there wasn't any racetracks around us. I was aware of racing, but I wouldn't say that I had always shown a fondness for racing. I think I'd shown a fondness just with nature, with living animals.
Yeah. But how is this a story in Germany? Are they aware that even though, I mean, obviously you're American, but that this German born and raised trainer is in the Kentucky Derby? Do you know if it's even?
I don't think it's been touched on. I think I mentioned to you that I was just hoping to try and keep a low profile. You had, I think, enlightened me that may not be as easily accomplished as I would be hoping, but yeah, so just trying to do my job and stay focused on point and accomplish that task.
All right, this is the last call for questions. And we thank you very much for your time, and travel safe. And we look forward to seeing you in Louisville, Tim, with your horses.
Well, thank you.
That's it. Thanks, y'all.